Hi, sister. How are you? I want to frolic in a forest right now. Like, I see your face and I immediately want to frolic in a forest because that's a thing we do. May we frolic in a forest in the ethereal tonight when I sleep. Hi, Nicole. How are you? It's so good to see you. I'm going to let some folks join. There's quite a few people signed up, but some are just going to want the replay of it, which is totally fine. Um, And I was so surprised that in the sign up, not a lot of people ask questions, just a few people. So I think there's going to be more questions after I share things, because then people will be like, what do you mean by that? Can you break that down a little bit? What do you mean by cosmic bliss? So, hi, Irene. There you are. You're all snuggled up. I want to squish you. I absolutely
Cold.
want to squish you.
It's cold in here.
Is it?
hmm
Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Let's see, what time is it? We are at 11:02. Okay. I want to be able to get as much done as humanly possible, so I'm going to start. But before I start, I want to bring us all into our hearts really quickly so that we can be in a receptive space. Because there's a lot of information that's going to come in that if you're not familiar, you haven't seen it before, it could be a little overwhelming. And sometimes our brain short circuit and go, I can't. And just like you dissociate. And it's not like you try to, you just do. So we need to be in a receptive mode um, right now. So if you could close your eyes for a moment and take some breaths and maybe put your hand on your heart space so that you can start kind of feeling the center of this projective and receptive portal in your body that allows you to receive and give and feel the beat of your heart, that magic spark of life. We're going to be talking about that magic spark of life today that connects us to our hearts and to Gaia and to all of creation. And at this time, you can just kind of internally choose how much you want to receive of this, and just I invite you to receive it at the pace that you need to receive it, so that you can just it can calibrate to your body and your mind and your spirit in a way that is really comfortable for you and not in any way overwhelming. And a big thing here too is not comparing, and to just be grateful you're on the path you're on, because remember, we're playing a game of hide and seek with ourselves. Some of us really enjoy playing the game hide and seek. And so we hide for an extra long time, or we change our hiding spots. But you will be found by yourself, but you really like to play the game too. So enjoy the game while you're in it, because you're in control of that game. And I want you to picture like this beautiful, like coral feels like an apple around your body that is divine source light and love and the frequency of a divine mother, of a womb space that holds you in here in this container so we can create together. de Dios, de maka zivatmora diver kurdive kemas, shubiti vliat navradia, ashtono boru, eka. All right, here we are, folks. Are you ready to receive? I am ready to give. Oh, just in time for Genevieve to get here. How wonderful. Welcome, Genevieve. I'm so happy you're here for this Kundalini Q and A. And so, as many of you have noted, yesterday was my 3-year Kundalini anniversary. And Spirit told me very aggressively 2 weeks ago or so, 2.5 weeks ago, that, oh, you get to share this story with people now. Because to be clear, when this happened, there was not a lot that I could find on it anywhere, and I didn't know what was happening to me, and I certainly couldn't share it with anybody. So I'm just delighted to be able to share it with you. And I welcome questions too in the chat. I will be responding to the questions in a little bit that you guys submitted, but there's going to be more that come up. And so there's going to be time for us to go into that, certainly. We're going to start by going over what Kundalini is, because some people really they don't know. I didn't freaking know what it was. I had no idea what Kundalini was. And then I'm going to go into my story, do some Q&A, and then I'll tell you about what Spirit has asked me to do with this information for you right now. Um, so first of all, I'm going to be referring to this source quite a bit simply because he's created so many great visual tools. Um, Nevin Parr, he can be found on Instagram under Wing Shu Publishing. He is like really into posting. So he posts like 20 times a day. Um, his Kundalini rose in 2004, which was a while before most people were doing this. And his rose, there are many ways for the Kundalini to rise that I can go into, but his rose from an intentional practice of tantric um, partnering and by himself through breath work and stuff. Just like his goal was to become a superhero, basically. He's like, he read about it and he's like, I know that this opens up a whole new world of abilities and I want to be a superhero. So, reading his book, which is very big, you can listen to it too, which is maybe preferable too, because you can get all of the pictures, you can get them downloaded with the audio and it's kind of nice to just listen to it instead of read because it's an enormous book. I have it right here. It's very big. I use it really as a reference, and the visuals are great. What I'll say is that it's not a perfect reference tool because it doesn't speak to the female experience pretty much at all, like at all. And it's a very different experience as a female. But he does bring in all the resources of what's happening and why and different traditions. And that in itself, if you like information, is really, really valuable. And he speaks to like, if you're having this experience, what you do about it, like, oh my God, I'm a 12-year-old boy and I cannot calm down ever with your like sexual drive. He talks to that and how to like channel it because that's what Kundalini does. So he has a lot of good stuff in there in terms of also when Kundalini goes wrong, which I appreciate. But again, does not speak to the female experience. And you'll notice there's a few of us in here. So it's time for us to get to do this. How many of you know what Kundalini is? I'm just kind of curious. You folks. I did not mean to do that. I can't see the chat, actually. That's annoying. I can't see the chat. Dang it. Okay. So Kundalini is a life force energy that lies dormant at the base of your spine. It's kind of coiled up like this at the base of your coccyx. There's so much lore and esoteric information about how this connects to so much symbolism in mythology related to the coccyx as a symbol of like a shovel in a lot of stories and how you can find the gold and all of this stuff. But in essence, is it a real snake? I feel like it is because when I connect to it, I can feel snakes all over my body, which sounds creepy. And a lot of people are frightened of snakes, like have an abnormal fear of snakes. Even if it's a gardener snake, they're like, and they scream and they're freaked out. I believe a lot of that is the understanding of the sensitivity of this power that can be used um, in a beautiful way, or it can be very detrimental. And so some of us in other lifetimes have probably had poor Kundalini experiences that we're remembering if you have a fear of snakes. But really it's like the dragon energy, it's the divine mother energy, it's the fluidity energy. of life force, life spark itself that lies dormant at the base of your spine. And so there is something that will spark it, fully awaken it, cause it to cinch up and shrink back down. There are a lot of ways that Kundalini works for some people. But it does, when it rises, it gives you access to what I would say is your godhood, which is your ability to be connected to absolutely everything and know your own source power and the vitality and to create physically, spiritually, anything you want, any reality you want. And that sounds really grand when I say that, but I think it'll make more sense as I continue to share some question or some comments on this. So think first, and I have to tell you, because I am doing this today, all night I just dreamt about circuits. I just dreamt about circuits constantly because we are in essence circuits. And no one teaches us that we are circuits, so we have no way of knowing that. But this is a really great image to show you how that circuitry works. So most of us are familiar with the chakra systems. Um, and I certainly was, but I wasn't aware that there are masculine and feminine aspects to the circuitry. There's the projective, which is going outward, and the receptive, which is on our back. So it's the masculine and feminine. And we can work on chakras and we can work on clearing out our chakras, but the truth is, we're always transmuting, especially as light workers. We're in a world where our bodies are automatically pulling in darkness and trying to transmute it into light and expelling it. But we're not doing that consciously a lot of times in our lives. And so those circuits in our body get clogged, and so when they're clogged, the energy isn't running through us as a circuit to its full potential, allowing us to have like constant power source. When they get clogged, either in the receptive or projective aspect, or both of these different chakra systems, which all have a thematic different vibration, from basic needs to divine connectivity at the top. If they are struggling, we get sick or we get mentally unwell. So a lot of psychics will have that are natural psychics, they'll have a lot of junk stuck in their third eye, which distorts their vision, which can be really scary if you have a distorted vision, distorted clair abilities. If your solar plexus is all blocked, you can't stand into your power, and you're always like being passive with people and you don't know why you can't stand up for yourself. If your throat chakra is kind of junked up, you can't speak up for yourself. You can't um, receive or give your communication, and you can feel those discording energies in your relationships with other people too. So if you're having a challenge with someone in your life, like it could be a boss or a family member, whatever thematically they're not able to receive or give is just letting you know what part of their circuit is clogged. And so, in order for that circuit to clear out, we can work on it like one on one. We can meditate. We can try to empower ourselves to work on these at a time. We can do it with yoga, which was a really divine gift that was downloaded to Yogananda to be able to like clear our circuitry through movement, which is beautiful. But we are changing in what our technology is internally and in our outer world, because we've entered the age of Aquarius. And so the technology in our outer world is becoming more, hopefully soon, more advanced. And we are also technology. And so we're getting upgraded as our outer world is getting upgraded because of the law of correspondence. And we're receiving a lot of these upgrades now. And there are a lot of ways to go through that, which is slow or fast. And I believe to reach a harmonious circuitry in this balance of masculine and feminine energies, where we're able to receive and give in all of these different vibratory frequencies, to be in harmony with ourselves The one of the best ways to do that is to work with the energy of the Kundalini because it clears it out for you. It clears it out like a roto-rooter. You don't even have to try that hard. If you spark it at the right time, and it's your time to spark it, and you're in alignment to receive it, that's the key, that you can hold it. It will clear out all the work that would take decades very quickly. It's very intensive and very overwhelming, but it's the most beautiful thing that could ever happen to anybody if they're able to receive it. So the main circuits for the Kundalini, a lot of people look at it as two serpents that are coiled and they go like this. So if you've seen the inappropriately used caduceus that is in medical symbology of the rod with the two snakes and the wings at the top, that is usually on ambulances or on hospitals. And God knows they're misusing it because that's an ancient symbol of the Kundalini, which is a healer. And oftentimes, Western medicine is not healing us at all. But how the circuitry works is that Kundalini energy, which is in the sciatic nerve of our bodies. The left side of our body is the feminine, and the right side is the masculine. And so that is where that source is kind of trying to swim. And if it gets stuck, which it often does, because that root chakra is our basic needs being met and fear and shame and all that, that we're really swimming in constantly, we end up with like agitation and restlessness in our legs. And a lot of people struggle with restless leg syndrome. But that's what they call it. It's really just stuck energy that needs the circuit to open up. And so, yeah, this is really frustrating to experience. If any of you have experienced that agitation with the sciatic in that circuit, it is absolutely miserable. Anecdotally, my poor mom, for years, probably the last 15 years, her restless leg has been so strong. She was put on so many medications to just sleep at night. She was kicking herself in the face with her legs like that severely. It was miserable for her. So a lot of us feel it in different ways. Again, I really love his visual imagery because it describes things so beautifully. For all the ways he is not perfectly aligned with the feminine, I appreciate his ability to create these images. So what he's done here is he's shown all of us know we have a left and right side of our brain and that they don't always really talk very well to each other. A lot of people understand one side is masculine and one is feminine. So when we meet someone who's really good at math and science, we know right away that they're better things on the left side of their brain and vice versa. So we've really been split into two different categories in our world of people who are good at math and science, which is the masculine, which is what is valued in our civilization. If you're good at math and science, you make more money. If you're good at emotion and art and creativity in those ways, you are not as valued in our society because we've been in a patriarchal world. The goal of the Kundalini is to marry those two sides so you are perfectly aligned and the two talk to each other. So you're not in conflict internally. They call that in alchemy uh, the marriage, the divine marriage, that union that happens within. So a lot of times in stories and folklore, mythology, whatever, they'll talk about a marriage at the end. Like all the Disney movies, there's a marriage at the end. And you think, well, they're just trying to train you to like get married and align with society. No, a lot of these are old stories. I'm not saying Disney is good by any means, but these are a lot of old stories. They always end in a marriage, which is the awakening. In all the old Disney princess movies, you'll note if you go back, and I was told to after I came back from Shasta for the third time this last fall, to lay down and watch all the Disney movies in a row, and I did. And every single one of them ended with the princess getting married, and then she was wearing this color when she was done, which is the color of that That light blue is the Mother Mary color. It's the color of divinity, of the Melchizedeks, of the Great White Brotherhood, all of that higher dimensional um, guidance stuff is related to this color. And all the princesses wear blue when they have their divine marriage, when the masculine and feminine come together. So, what the snake, this serpent, does is it brings together the masculine and the feminine. You'll see the moon and the sun are feminine and masculine accordingly. And that brings you to your crown. Your crown is your lotus of your crown chakra opening up that allows you connectivity to divinity. On the right here, we have this is the Kabbalah tree of life, which I could speak 5 hours just on that symbol. But a spoiler for you is this ancient symbol that's used in mystic Jewish traditions is connected to our DNA. It's our DNA, just so you know. But the translation of that top white one, Keter, is crown. And we live at the bottom, which is the Malkut. And our whole life is to try to climb that ladder to get to the top so we can be divine. And that's the Keter. So we are always trying to search to get to that union. And we try to do that just mentally in our life in so many different ways by trying to fill it with a person. Like we're looking for that divine marriage in a person. Um, but many of us don't know that that has to happen internally before it can happen externally successfully. Um, there's always going to be, like, I'm not saying don't be in relationships, but the relationship you're in will give you a mirror of what you need to look at, what you need to expand upon, what you need to heal. I finally figured out how to get to my chat. Hallelujah. Brings the seed of life jumped. Yes, it does, girlfriend. It absolutely does. So, does that make sense to anyone? Are you following me so far? Yeah. Okay, great. So, this image I love also because it shows the spinal column and where those chakras are aligned accordingly. Now, what happens when the Kundalini rises is that it creates a force. It's almost like electricity or a tsunami or some like big force. Think about like there's a dam and then a tsunami comes in and breaks that dam and just floods the area. That's what your cerebral spinal fluid does that's going around in your circuit. When that Kundalini gets jostled, maybe it pokes its little head up or it goes sometimes with a full experience like I had, it will shoot up to that part in the middle of the brain, the pineal gland, and it stimulates it. And when it knocks on it like that, it's actually getting you connected to those higher chakra realms to connect you to your divine source and your own divinity. So it's actually the antenna. It's the antenna for you to finally remember who you are. It's like you've been a sleeper cell this whole time in life, doing your best, trudging along, and this happens, and you're like, my name is Inigo Montoya. You kill my father, prepare to die. Kind of like you suddenly know what you're supposed to do with your life. It becomes clear like that. It's and that's why there's so many stories about, resurrection, dying and coming back from the dead. This is all allegory for what we do because we are basically in our lives not living fully in our power and our divinity until this moment happens. And a lot of people don't get to experience this in their life, but it's really like I have been getting this image for years since I awakened initially. I got so many downloads in the first few months that changed everything you'll see in a second. But one of them was so funny. It was about Super Mario. If any of you have played Nintendo, which I loved Nintendo and I loved playing Super Mario. But basically it was that, our lifetimes are playing Super Mario and We're building skills to make it to the end of each level, but there's always another level after it. There's always another level after it, after it, after it, after it. And we have to learn a new skill every time to get past to the next level. And sometimes if it's a level is too hard, I don't know if you've done this, but I've just walked off a cliff in Mario just so I can go back. I'm like, I can't do this right now. And that's, I guess, in some ways how people's lives work as well, is that sometimes it's just too hard. Or you choose to stay at the first level and just collect your little mushrooms and not like learn a new skill. You're like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just gonna do it this way. So what this does is it's basically like, you'll note if you've ever finished Mario, there's a marriage. He marries Princess Peach at a castle, and then all of the beings in the kingdom who acted evil, they transform into who they really were, which were just like loving little creatures, and they all celebrate the marriage. This is a mirror. Everything in media gives us a mirror of what's really going on. And so if you look at it like that, I feel like it's really easy to understand that we have these levels, and each chakra system is a level. We have to beat that boss. And that's the egoic version of that level. So our root chakra is our safety, our basic needs, dealing with fear and shame and all of those things, abundance. And that egoic part of us is going to live in fear and scarcity, and it's going to be defensive and aggressive with other people. You haven't played that in so long. Yeah, I recommend playing Nintendo again because this is wow. And also Zelda. I feel like Zelda is a really good mirror as well because there's a lot of secret keys you need to collect to get into chambers. And that's just kind of right on the nose. They're quests. But so each of these, you have to beat the dark side of that chakra system in order to get the gifts of that chakra system. So the gifts of the root chakra would be prosperity. The gifts of the sacral chakra would be the ability to create openly how you need to. The gifts of the solar plexus would be to be in your own power and to be able to live in that sovereignty without wavering. Your heart is to give and receive love. Your throat is to be able to communicate and receive communication from other people without becoming distorted. Your vision, your third eye, you'll be able to see clearly. I call it what I am as a clear channel. So I don't have dark energy that gets woven in with truth to distort it, to make it, like a fear, fourth dimensional apocalyptic scenario. I actually see very clearly what's happening from a higher point. So I'm able to channel information that's not distorted with my own ego of these other chakras that are clogged up. And of course, that crown chakra is being able to completely align with divinity. And it only opens up when the others are healed. And so, in essence, the Kundalini is going through this process of healing all of them as it twirls up your spine, like that snake on the rod, to marry both sides of the brain to stimulate that pineal gland with the cerebral spinal fluid, which they open what's known as the Brahma's cave, and then you open your cosmic egg. So when your crown chakra opens, it feels like, did any of you have like a dad or an uncle or a grandpa who would like do this on your head and then melt it down to get the weird sensation around your knee or something? Everybody in my family did that so it feel like an egg was just cracked on you. That's what it feels like. It feels like that. So, okay. I love this so much because it shows you really the symbolism in the world, what we're seeing. So the pineal gland is somewhat similar to a pine cone. And so in old like references in art and in architecture and in everything, I swear, everything you see that has a pine cone is referring to this divine union where you have access to divinity and that divine knowledge. This cross section of the brain up top left is an actual replica of the Eye of Horus or the Eye of Ra, which is associated with being able to be a seer. and to have access to that knowledge, to be a god. The caduceus here is over on the right, and this is the location of the pineal gland in your brain. It's the center of everything, and when stimulated, allows a union of both those sides of the brain to take place where you're no longer out of balance. So you're no longer like, I'm just a creative person, or I only do math and science. I don't like art. Like you're not one or the other, you're both. And when you come into union and you're connected to your divinity, that's when you're able to create fully without distortion in the world. So, can you be going through different levels as the opening of each chakra simultaneously as you go? Absolutely. Absolutely. I felt when this was happening with me that I was experiencing like almost two chakras at a time would be processing. and and then there would be a period where it was kind of stuck working through some stuff, which is why a lot of work I had to do on my end. And I mean, my process has been very long, but what I'm gonna share today in my story is only gonna be the first 6 months of my Kundalini awakening. So all the things that happened after that, I'm not sharing, like talking to galactic beings and stuff like that came later. I'm gonna talk about the basic Kundalini experience of what the fuck is happening to, oh my God, there are guides waking me up in the middle of the night that I didn't know existed. I look up Vishnu, it's like a big deal, like it's pretty cool. So, but what I love though, and I've always loved, is that you can prove this with science. Like this is a thing that has always, it's because we are fractals of source, we were all given a bit of that source. And because we're in a realm that's kind of been trapping us, we haven't had access to remember our sovereignty or our godhood or our bliss. And this is that. And it's just very exciting. Is there a chakra in the back of the neck? I feel that would be your throat chakra. Yeah, that would be your throat chakra. And a lot of people, it gets stuck there when they have a hard time like sticking up for themselves or they have something to say. The first time I ever had Reiki done, oh my God, I haven't thought about this in a while. It was like in 1997. There was something called a fairy fair going on at a metaphysical store in Boise called Moonrise Mountain. And they would give you like samples of different things like tarot cards or psychic readings or Reiki treatments. You could get 15 minutes for a discounted rate to try out the service and then get book for a longer one later. And I was like, what the hell is Reiki? My first experience, and the guy, it was so weird to me because I had no concept of you could be touching me without touching me or energy. And he did. And when he was done, he's like, you have a lot going on in your throat right now that needs cleared. And it's true because I needed to say a lot of things, but I didn't understand that. And when I went home from that treatment, I threw up for 2 days. so, so sometimes the energy gets cleared out in ways you are not anticipating. But it's better out than in, as they say. So what happens? I'm going to share this really quickly with sound. So what does it feel like when this happens? I am going to share this very short video with you that I think is the best replica of what the experience is like. So for me, when mine rose, for you, it could happen quickly or slowly. I think it was very quick. It was an aggressive Kundalini awakening. To clear out all my chakras took 3 months. It can take years for people. It took 3 months for me to get to the crown, but I did feel the rising very aggressively on one day. And then it finished on March 13th, which was just several months. It was just a few months. That's that crazy. So cool. Anyway, so I'm going to show you this. This is Nevin Parr's Instagram, but this video. Yeah, that is so activating to watch. And I can see you, Alex. You're like feeling that right now. It is so activating because and it's so accurate. He really, really, really captured it so beautifully. And yeah, I'm curious how you guys feel if you want to write anything in the chat before I come to the next video. I'm going to show you a second one that is what the experience is like after it rises for you, like what you have access to. Yeah, tingles all over. And the music helps. That music is so powerful. It's just like, oh, I'm taking it. Because what I'm going to show you next, it feels like fiction. I'm telling you, it feels like it's fiction, but it is not fiction. One of the people in my life that I love dearly, whose Kundalini rose unexpectedly when she saw the codes on my wall. Like she's just minding her own business and came to like a potluck at my house with her wife, who was spiritual, but she wasn't into any of this. She saw my codes and her Kundalini rose to see my codes. And when I shared this next video with her, she's like, "Oh my God, that's exactly what happened." And when I saw it, I started crying because it's so accurate. So just be advised. If any of you have seen Doctor Strange before, if you haven't, this is exactly what
You're a
the
man
experience
looking at the
is.
world through a keyhole, and you've spent your whole life trying to widen that keyhole, to see more, to know more. And now, on hearing that it can be widened in ways you can't imagine, you reject the possibility.
No, I reject it because I do not believe in fairy tales about chakras or energy or the power of belief. There is no such thing as spirit. We are made of matter and nothing more. You're just another tiny, momentary speck within an indifferent universe.
You think too little of yourself.
Oh, you think you see through me, do you? Well, you don't. But I see through you. What did you just do to me?
I pushed your astral form out of your physical form.
What's in that tea? Psilocybin? LSD?
It's just tea. With a little honey.
What just happened?
For a moment, you entered the astral dimension.
What?
A place where the soul exists apart from the body.
Why are you doing this to me?
To show you just how much you don't know. Open your eyes.
His heart rate is getting dangerously high.
He looks all right to me. You think you know how the world works? You think that this material universe is all there is? What is real? What mysteries lie beyond the reach of your senses? At the root of existence, mind and matter meet. Thoughts shape reality. This universe is only one of an infinite number. Worlds without end. Some benevolent and life-giving. Others filled with malice and hunger. Dark places where powers older than time lie, ravenous and waiting. Who are you in this vast multiverse? Mr. Strange. Have you seen that before in a gift shop?
Teach me.
No.
I love that. Oh my gosh. What did you guys think of that? This, it doesn't feel like it should be possible or real, and it is exactly what it feels like. Just exactly. So how did this happen to me? Okay, this picture, this is my daughter. She's 19 and grown now, but I don't know if she'd love that I was sharing this. It's the perfect picture though. So it was 2021 in the spring of 2021. My parents fell apart. My parents are now in their 80s, but something happened during COVID. They were functional and fine, and then they both got severely demented at the same time. At the same time, which is not a normal thing to happen in a person's life. They have a different kind of dementia, but they're different. Um, they're both unwell, and they lived on the property that I grew up on. It's an acreage in Boise, and um, they what happened is my mom is blind and she had a fall and fell into a wall. Her whole face was purple. My dad had an accident in the pasture cutting and pruning things. He hurt his back. Neither of them called me because they didn't want me to know, because they were afraid I would know that they weren't safe and that they would have to do something about their living situation. So when this happened that spring, we immediately had to, I say we because my daughter was by my side the whole time. She was just like a complete champ. And she was just like a sophomore in high school. So it was really hard for her. But we ended up having to deal with moving them off of this estate they'd lived in since 1974. There were many outbuildings. Like my dad had built two barns and a shed. He collected stuff. He was kind of a hoarder of things you might need. And so, just an example, when we got the estate people to come and help take care of it, the guy, Albert, he's like, "Hey, do you want to guess how many rototillers your dad has?" And I said, "How many?" He said, "8." He had 8. So this is kind of what we're dealing with. And so Charlotte, my daughter, she found this beautiful 50s formal dress, and we did a photo shoot on the property before everything got packed up by the estate people and sold. And it's a really beautiful photo shoot, this contrast of all this stuff and then this beautiful young girl, my daughter. And I had to deal with lawyers and doctors, and I'm a social worker, so I knew a lot of that stuff, but it was so emotionally taxing because at the same time I was running my own business as a counselor in a private practice, and counseling, I had a docket of over like 40 people I was working with. I saw about over 20 a week. I was dealing with, insurance companies and paperwork, a teenage daughter that was breaking down with conflicts with her dad, and then my parents fell apart. I was at the point, break wise, of being unwell that I thought about dying every single day of my life. I wanted to not be here anymore. I didn't want to leave my daughter, but I was like, if someone accidentally took me out on the freeway, I'd be okay with it. That we call that passive suicidality in mental health, which of course, me counseling people while feeling that way sucks. But those who can't do teach. I was not great. But during COVID, something great did happen, was that I was finally diagnosed as autistic. And while I don't agree with a lot of diagnostics, for me, it helped me put all my nuances into a box that made me understand myself and show me more grace so that I wasn't judgmental of myself in the same way of like, why are you such an asshole to people? Like, why do you always say what you think? Why can't you function if there's too much stimuli? Why, like all this stuff. And I was able to get diagnosed because my daughter was getting diagnosed. And I also was diagnosed with ADHD. The reason this is important, and again, I don't care about Western medicine or diagnosis, it was very much my path, was that I was able to, like, in this breakdown of functioning, I got on Adderall. And again, I'm not just saying that meds are okay. Spirit made me go off Adderall about 4 months ago. It's been hell, but it made me able to function. And I didn't want to die anymore. And that's what I needed. It's an intervention at this time, frankly. These are my parents. This is actually, and Olivia, you've seen them. They don't look like this now. But this is what they looked like when I first moved them out into a facility. They're in their third facility now because of care. There was the nicest place that looked the nicest that we had them in didn't help my mom bathe for 6 months. And she's blind and she didn't know she was needing as much bathing, and dementia doesn't let you know that you haven't. So it was awful. So this has been like many layers of, it's like a slow death. If any of you have dealt with dementia, it's kind of the worst thing in the world. But they don't look like this anymore. They look very, very bad, actually. I love you, Alex, too, so much. You're gonna make me cry. You know when you're like sad and then someone hugs you and then you cry? This makes me sad. My mom doesn't walk anymore. She's in a wheelchair. She's blind. My dad has a rash over his whole body because he has an autoimmune condition right now from his stress that's eating his body. It looks like he has leprosy. They're precious. I love them so much. They just had their 60th wedding anniversary on December 4th. They met on a blind date, you guys. It's cute. So the day before my Kundalini rose, this is the last picture I have before it happened. My daughter and I were sitting down to watch Twin Peaks and eat cherry pie with a damn good cup of coffee. And if any of you like Twin Peaks, you know that this is really cool. And we were all like decorated for Christmas. We were kind of enjoying ourselves. The next day, I went to go see my energy healer woman that I had met with for years. She actually used to work in nuclear power and she had an awakening, and then she started working with energy and the human body as circuits. And I think that's not a mistake. So her name was Suzanne Michelle. And so I went to go see her because I'm like, okay, things are a little bit better. I'm on Adderall. My parents are moved, you know, and she can read energy. And I didn't have that skill yet. I've always been spiritual, but and I would channel in sessions with patients, but I wasn't like connected, you know. And she looked at me, and I'd worked with her for so long, but she looked at me and she's like, your circuit is completely clear. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, I don't understand what's happened. And I said, well, I went on Adderall a couple months ago. She said, that doesn't make sense because medications are bad. And I'm like, I know, weird, right? And she's like, but there's not anything that, like, you're good. And you know, like when you go to a healer, you spend a lot of money, you're kind of bummed if you don't get like something notable. So I was kind of agitated. I was annoyed. She also like intentionally triggered me because I was kind of like, poor me, my parents, this is so hard. And she's like, you don't have to do that stuff. And I was like, yes, I do. And she's like, no, you don't. And I said, yes, I do, or I'd be a horrible person. And she's like, you don't have to do it, but to be Audrey, you do it because you're so loving. You don't have to. Remember, no one's forcing you to. It is your choice to do this. She was like pushing me into my sovereignty. She was pushing me out of my victimhood. And that was really important. It pissed me the hell off, though. I want you to know. I was just like, it was like a 3-year-old. Like, don't say that to me. But then I got home after that session. My daughter was on the phone with a friend, and I didn't like have anything to do. The house was clean. So I just kind of like leaned on my couch and started scrolling in TikTok. And I won't tell you what I saw, but there was something that was basically like in Zelda when he stumbles across something and a big key like starts floating in the air, and he's like, I'll take that key. And then he like is like super powered. the thing I saw on TikTok, the thing I heard on TikTok that was a sound, it actually was that key. And I felt in that moment the heat at the base of my spine shoot up my spine. And I had this like slideshow montage go off in my head, like in movies when someone has a moment and then they see like every moment of their life flash before their eyes. Maybe they're having a near-death experience or whatever. What I saw in that montage was every moment in my life I had been myself, my true self. And I saw images of me like dancing when I was 22 at a bar to like techno music and just happy, not necessarily drunk. I'm sure I was probably, but I was like unencumbered. I was being fully myself. The way I dressed, the way all these things that I used to do. And I swear to you, the entire slideshow of like childhood to like 20 something was all moments of pure joy and me being myself. And there was nothing past my 20s at all. And it was just like, holy shit, I'm not being who I am. I'm not being who I am. So I had this like heat in my back and this tingling, this vision. And I remember texting my energy healer after that because that's the closest thing I could anchor it to. And I said, I think and I said these words and I have it written down. I think I unlocked a new level in my video game, which is the metaphor I'm using with you guys. And that's kind of where it began. Immediate changes I noticed. And be advised, I did not know Kundalini was what happened yet. But these are the things that happened within days. I unfollowed every celebrity and news source on every social media because I had this overwhelming feeling, I don't know these people. Why do I even care about them? And what I know now is that I realized they weren't gods. I realized they weren't above or different than me in any way. I had my power back is what happened. I didn't know that at the time, but I was just like, why do I even care about Ellen DeGeneres and what she's doing? So, I just like unfollowed all of these people. Like I was following, what's her name from Orange is the New Black, who had a cooking show. I'm like, why the fuck am I following these people? And just so you know, Instagram will only let you unfollow so many people in a day. I had to like do days of this to get it clear to people, only people that I really felt connected to. I unfollowed like 1,000 people. I was unable to speak words that weren't true anymore. I would, you know how sometimes you tell white lies or when someone says to you at a grocery store, "How are you doing today?" And you're like, "Fine, how are you?" I could not do that anymore. If they said, "How are you today?" I'd be like, "It's confusing. I don't know what's happening." And they're like, you're finally being honest. And I couldn't like lie for my daughter. She's like, "Don't say anything to so and so if they ask." I'm like, I can't promise anything, man. I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. And I couldn't tell old stories that weren't true. Like I mean that involved victimhood. So we all have narratives. We have these tapes we play of this sad, sad thing happened to me. It's so sad. Aren't you so sad for me? I love you, Alex. Aren't you so sad for me that these things happened? It's so awful. We all have it, just so you know. Like, it's not just you, it's not just me, it's every freaking human on the planet just wants to be seen and acknowledged for the tragedies they've been through. I used to think it was just me until I became a counselor. I realized everybody has the stories that are fucking awful. Like, legit bad things have happened to so many people. And so they're really true. It's not like you're just like telling stories, but every time you tell the story, it anchors that experience and that vibration in your life. So if you retell the story of being assaulted or an abusive marriage or like your parent was ignored you or any of those stuff, you're re-anchoring the vibration of that experience into your present reality. So it's going to keep you there. And of course, I didn't understand all of this at that point, but even like my friends would go into these narratives, sometimes do you ever just like have coffee with someone and just talk shit for an hour? That's kind of like what women do. Sometimes they like get together, they have coffee and they're like, "Oh bitch, please, do you know what happened?" Like you just talk. I would get together with a friend for coffee and they'd start an old narrative. Can you believe what blah 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 did? Did you see on social what she's doing now? And I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I didn't like because it was relating to like an old thing that happened 20 years ago. And I'm like, why are we talking shit about this person? Like, they're a totally different person than they were 20 years ago. And I don't give a shit. Like, I wasn't invested anymore. One of the funniest things is I went into my closet and I realized I hated everything I had. Like, all the clothes I had were clothes that would make me look professional in my job or cool with a trend or something. And I looked in my closet and I hated absolutely everything in there except for like my Lululemons. I did love those still. And some sweatshirts. But literally everything I wore every day to work, I was like, it's all gotta go. None of this is me. And it was like serious. It was like putting it on would be not being me. And that was the worst thing in the world. So my daughter came home from school when I had just emptied my entire closet on my bed. It was piled like 3 feet high of clothes I hated. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "All of this has to be sold. We have to get rid of all of it." So I took all of it in garbage bags to consignment, dumped everything else off at a thrift store. It was like I had to do it for my very lungs to breathe air again. Did I have pants after that? I did not have a single pair of pants after I donated everything. I did not think it through. I had no pants. So I had to think really quickly about what I was going to do. I'm like, "Oh shit, I have to go to the mall to find things." I ended up figuring it out, but I did like everything that was me before had to be shed. I stopped talking to friends that were draining because I was like, why do I want to talk to her if she's just going to tell me her sad story for like 2 hours and never ask me about me? Like, I started to realize an equity in my relationships. And none of this was conscious as to this thing that had just happened. It was just like, I feel like I'm going through something, is kind of what my narrative was. And I have this journal that all of my thoughts of that time are in this journal. It's so ridiculously large. This is my office at work, where I counseled people in that little couch, um, in my journal. So another thing that happened immediately was there were patients I'd been seeing for 5 years that were not doing anything to change, but they were definitely coming to dose my energy and to feel better just from being near me because I transmute. So they were like basically coming and dumping off their trash and leaving feeling much better, but they weren't changing their lives at all. And they were perpetuating stories of victimhood. So I actually went through my list of patients, and the ones that made me go, when I saw their name, I was going to keep them. And the ones that made me go, oh God, I told them I had to release them. And I told them it's because I was drained from the stuff that was happening in my life that was really challenging, transformative around my parents and other things. So I was very open about that, but I still didn't have language for what was happening to me. I also found I couldn't be anything but present. I can't daydream anymore. I used to just daydream, and then after this happened, I could not think of something that wasn't right now. And if anyone of you knew me beforehand, you'd know that's insane because I just lived in another world. I preferred it. I didn't like this one at all. And now I'm completely present for everything I'm doing. I am not thinking about anything else. It's kind of like releasing anything that isn't presently specific to your life. I'm telling you all these things because I'm going to reverse engineer a Kundalini awakening with you. Not today, but I'm going to be doing that. So I'm dissecting what I experienced so that you can also get insight into the parts of you that can be cleared or will need to be cleared in an awakening journey. Being in the moment made me a much better counselor because I wasn't looking at the clock to see, okay, we have 15 more minutes. If I'm going 15 more minutes, we need to loop back around in 10 minutes to let them know what their homework is. And kind of like the analytical piece, I was just like, everything started to flow. Immediate changes to myself. I stopped eating almost everything. I went into a grocery store and I realized everything in the grocery store was poison. And that sounds like conspiracy theorist, like low vibe, but it's not. I looked in and I realized, holy crap, all of this isn't food. Nicole, I'm happy I found you too. Um, I saw the ingredients. I'm like, what? None of this food is real. And also, all the meat has been slaughtered in scary circumstances. And I love meat, by the way. I just get it from good sources now. And all the fruit, why is it waxy? Like, I was just like, none of this is food. I was freaking out. So, what I ended up doing was I would go to Trader Joe's and I'd buy just big ass Honeycrisp apples and cheddar cheese and little pouches of green olives. And that's all I ate. Those were the only things that would align for my body. I was like, okay, these I can consume, but just these. And I needed fat so bad. It was just like if any of you have been pregnant before, or even just PMS, when you're just like, you know what sounds good right now? It's some chocolate ice cream. I have to have it or I'll die. It was like that, but cranked up to where I have to eat, and I would eat at my coffee shop like a breve. So it's got cream in it with a chocolate croissant every morning. So I was getting chocolate and butter and cream, and then I'd be eating apples, green olives, and cheese. It went on to where I was eating a lot of olive oil and bread that was freshly baked in a bakery. Nothing that you got off the shelf that would live for a month and a half. That's so weird. So I needed fat. This is very important for you to know. I needed fat. So keep in mind, our society says low fat, low salt. Basically, everything they tell you is what you actually need. You need fat, you need salt. It's conductions because Kundalini is power. It is like you are a freaking light bulb. It is power. It needs to conduct, and it needs fat and it needs salt to conduct. And that's what everything was being put into my life. I lost 30 pounds in 3 months. I wasn't like overweight, but I was like not as comfortable as I could be. I was feeling middle aged for sure. I lost 30 pounds in 3 months. It's just, and I wasn't, I was eating these things, but I couldn't, like, it was butter and cream, and I was losing weight. I had insatiable energy. I didn't write this down, but I had energy to do everything all the time. I barely slept, maybe 4 hours a night. I started to see color everywhere. It was like before this happened, everything was beige. And suddenly I'm like, oh my God, have you seen that leaf? It is the prettiest green I've ever seen in my life. It's like I just started to see it. I had never seen it before. I saw geometry in everything around me that was growing. I could not go on walks anymore without stopping to talk to tree bark. It was the weirdest. I was just like, it's so beautiful. Why does this tree bark look like a yoni? This feels suspiciously similar. I was just like starting to see similarities in absolutely everything. I also released every single label I had about myself. I didn't want to. I discovered this by getting angry when someone labeled me as something I used to label myself as. So someone was like, because prior to I would be very proud to say like I'm a lesbian, but I can't. I like it hurt me to say that just now. I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that about myself because it's limiting and it limits my story and it just puts me in a category and I can't be categorized because I'm bigger than that. I couldn't say I was a Republican or a Democrat. I would have never said I was a Republican, but I definitely couldn't say I was a Democrat. I couldn't affiliate myself with being a fan of something. In fact, if someone said, oh my God, you're such a big fan of blah, blah, blah show, I'm like, well, I like it. I enjoy watching it, but I didn't want to say fan. So what this is I couldn't give my personal power away, is what this is. I couldn't give my personal power away. I had to be in myself and who I am all the time. I couldn't lie. I had to be truthful. I had to be standing in my power. And I also took it back from everything that was taking it away from me. That is a simplified statement right there because all of this stuff comes back to that. So my Kundalini rose in December. February is my birthday. And for my birthday, my friends took me to an escape room called the Excalibur, where I pulled a sword from a stone. That is also symbolic of actually a Kundalini awakening, and I had no idea. But it's funny that I have a picture of me doing that. And now my daughter works at that escape room, and she is considered a time traveling agent. And she does a whole shtick for people of, I'll be your time traveling agent. And people go into Excalibur or they go into all sorts of different timelines. It's so crazy that this is our lives. It finally came together when I kept pulling this card in my deck for my shaman deck, the serpent. I'm like, what's going on with me? What's going on with me? I thought maybe definitely a chakra was opening. I didn't know what, but I was having a lot of feelings of source energy. So that would be like, in simplified terms, I was feeling very aroused all the time. And there was no reason for me to, like, at all. It felt a lot like when I was like 18 years old and had a new person I was dating and you just like rabbits. But I didn't have that. And there was no reason for me to feel that way. And I wasn't provoking it, just for the record. Not that it matters, but I was not provoking it. It was just all the time. And nothing at all made it ever diminish. It was day and night. Just spoiler, this happened for 9 months straight without it going away. Day and night, all the time. I realize now that it happens like that so that you learn how to control it. But it was very uncomfortable and it felt like I broke my body. I felt like, what did I do? Did I break myself? So I would Google metaphysical aroused. Like I'm like, what does that mean? And I got some stuff around like tantra. Tantra is another word or another concept or another way to provoke Kundalini energy. And it's a type of yoga, it's a type of meditative practice, things I was not familiar with. And to be clear, I was not practicing yoga at all. I had done it a few years ago, but it was so much work. It's just like I can't like maintain habits very well when I'm stressed. So I wasn't doing it, but I was barely sleeping and I'd wake up in poses where like my arms behind me, I'm almost on my head and I'd wake up that way in my bed. What? And the more I got in my search engine, the more it finally came to Kundalini. And this card I kept playing. I'm like, oh, is it Kundalini? And every time I looked it up, it was everything I had experienced so far. And I was like, oh my God, I had a Kundalini awakening. Now, this is very early into it. This is probably a month or two into it. But what ended up happening was for that 3 months, I was doing all those things I had just shown you. So I was changing my diet, my environment, everything was changing. I was basically shedding layers of things that weren't me. And I did start doing when I started waking up in yoga poses. Like, okay, I'm gonna start doing yoga when I'm awake, see what that's like. So I would do some of that. And there was a series of three visions that I had 3 days in a row. It was in March in 2022. I was in Shavasana after doing yoga, and I had these visions that I can't share the entirety of it, but in essence, the first night I felt that power, that fire up my spine, and it made my back arch like someone would in an orgasm, but it wasn't an orgasm. But I wrote in my journal, it feels like a cousin to an orgasm because it didn't feel like an orgasm, but a cousin to an orgasm. And it was only for just like a second. And so I felt that the first night. The second night, I had the same experience in Shavasana, but I saw creation happen, like the moment of creation. And it looked like this. And it happened from love, like the union and the love that is felt within union of a masculine and feminine. I witnessed that in a vision specific to me. And then I witnessed the creation of everything, and I saw a thumbprint of love in everything that was created. It showed me a literal thumbprint down to the microscopic to the biggest thing in the universe. This thumbprint was of love. The third night, I experienced creation from the inside of it, as though it came from me, which is really fuckery for your brain because you're like, do I have a God complex? Like, what's happening here? I'm not narcissistic, I swear. But it wasn't that. It was like being able to witness creation and what it's like to create. I got to step into it and see it. I saw particles all around me and fire and gases, and I was like in this thing. And that was my series of three visions, and I experienced what's known as cosmic bliss, which is what orgasms wish they were, just so you know. So orgasms, think of your best orgasm you've ever had in your whole entire life by yourself or with another person, and then think of that as a little tiny whisper. An orgasm is just a teaser trailer of cosmic bliss because that's creation. When you have an orgasm, you're experiencing a little blip of creation from your source. This is actual creation bliss. So it's like when an orgasm grows up, it wants to be this. And spoiler for later, which I won't be talking about right now, for months and months, probably 8, 9, 10 months, I would wake up having 2-hour cosmic orgasms in the middle of the night. So that didn't suck. It really is hard on your back though, and it made me very sore the next day. It was like having seizures, but really blissful ones. I started seeing geometry everywhere. This is my favorite plant in my neighborhood that I get to see go through cycles when I go on walks. And just it's so funny because when I posted it on my social, like when I was mesmerized from it, like 2 people commented, "That's poisonous." And that was their comment on it. Like, it's so beautiful. I don't care if it's poisonous. Oh my God, look at it. It's so amazing. Look at the magic everywhere. So I was obsessed with geometry. I have hundreds of pictures of plants on my phone from this period where I was starting to actually see order in everything. And then I started getting visions and visits from guides about like after March happened, game on. It was like, because that opened my cosmic egg, and then I could connect to everything. I mean, everything. I could connect to everything. So things were waking me up in the middle of the night. Thank you, Vishnu. I didn't know who Vishnu was. I looked it up. St. Thomas Aquinas was one that I was not expecting because I didn't know that who St. Thomas Aquinas was. And he woke me up. Pythagoras has. This is Isis, Odin, Melchizedek was my first. Melchizedek and Odin and Isis were my primary teachers in the beginning. Isis took me through a series of initiation in pyramids. What? I never even cared about Egypt before. And suddenly, this was all hitting me. It was so cool, but it can also make you feel a little crazy. By little, I mean so crazy. But it came in that I was needing to do ancestral healing. Like these were things that needed cleared out of the channel. So I started making an altar for my dad's side of the family, and I was gathering information to do a major ancestral healing ceremony, but I wanted to just show you this altar that I made of things related to family members that my grandma did the embroidery on that little runner, and those are pictures of my grandma and my grandpa when he died of emphysema at 55 on the left, holding my brother. He was just 55. He looked like he was a concentration camp victim. My daddy in the black and white over here on the top right. And they grew up in Marsing, Idaho on a potato farm. And so there was healing of toiling that needed to take place. And so I started working on these specific things. I was getting visions of geometry all the time in my sleep. I kept on seeing this lotus, which is the crown chakra, blooming. I kept seeing the toral field and me in the middle of it. I kept seeing bioluminescence moving like this in my face when I'd close my eyes. I could feel it in my brain, this bioluminescence. I'm interrupting this regularly scheduled program to let you know that sometimes when someone is talking about very powerful things, there are technical glitches. And what our group experienced at this point was unlike anything I've really experienced before as someone hosting an event. The tech glitched out. First of all, in the recording, it glitched out about 5 minutes prior to when the actual recording stopped and then restarted. And this is unprecedented because of the timing of what was being spoken of when these glitches happened. The first glitch took place as I was talking about a fairly important topic regarding the Matrix. And then it actually cut out when I started talking about women taking their power back in a very intensive storytelling. So I'm going to share with you what got cut out via audio, and I will hopefully get us back on track. Kind of sad to do this solo right now. But to go back to where things split up. So some reflections on the good and the bad of my Kundalini awakening. The good was that I completely stopped having access to shame and fear, which I'm sure everyone can relate to as being one of the best things that could ever happen. And I couldn't access any of my old traumas or dramas. This old stories could not be retold anymore, and I couldn't feel the trauma of traumatic experiences anymore. I could go back and think about them, but they were completely disengaged from a response, when you go into fight or flight. So it was just like recalling what I had for breakfast. It was completely dismantled from its original fiery response with my body. It wasn't even something I could think about that was I couldn't access it. I kept on saying in my journal, I can't access it. I can't like go down that rabbit hole anymore. I can't go down the this was so sad this happened to me rabbit hole. I became extremely patient with everything. This was, of course, actually like after the 3 month period of clearing all the things. I started being able to see God in absolutely everything. I mean everything. I saw the signature of God in everything. The bad parts were that people thought that I was sick or ill because I had lost weight so quickly. And so my nursing friends, they kept on checking in with me and being like, "Are you feeling okay? You should go get checked out," because sometimes unintentional weight loss has bigger connotations in healthcare. And I just knew that that wasn't the case. So I didn't. But there was a lot of unpleasant concerns that I had to deal with, I guess. So my old friends just radically disappeared. They just radically disappeared. They didn't fit my vibration anymore. So the law of vibration just like spat them out of my life. And it wasn't even as though it was something that was like a traumatic incident all the time. It was just like they weren't on my timeline anymore, for lack of a better word. Um, and this is the part that actually glitched out. This next part that I'm going to say, this is where it all the sound went off in this recording was when I said it felt impossible to function in the matrix of the world that currently exists. It was very daunting. It was very isolating. It felt very sad to be aware of everything and not be able to get out of it. So, like when you know the truth of the magic of everything around you, it feels absolutely painful on a new level to sit down and pay bills and go grocery shopping or be stuck in traffic. And it can cause a great deal of depression and sadness and shadow in somebody who has become aware if they don't know what to do with it, which is where a lot of things come into like having purpose and having a mission. And Sleep. No, no, there's none of that anymore. About 4 hours a night or so. And also, I thought I was going crazy, which for a therapist is really, it just sucks. It sucks to think you're going crazy. Um, and I would say, so that was the good and the bad, and this is the ugly. And in the previous like recording before this cut out, I was kind of crying during this period of telling this part. So um, I asked my daughter as I was putting this together what she would like me to say about what it's like for family members that are going through this with somebody. And this picture was on a day where we were particularly clashing. We went to a park, and there was a big event going on at Boise State University for potential students. And so we were kind of just like walking around, and I just kept seeing light rays and beautiful things blooming, and it was springtime, and I'm like, it's so beautiful. And she was just, this is a perfect depiction of the clashing of us, like me seeing magic and everything, and she's like, what in God's name is happening? That is an accurate reflection of our entire relationship over this period of time. But when I asked her last night, what would she like me to say? She said it was an absolute nightmare, and it was hell for her because she thought that she'd lost her mom, like her mom died. When I say that there is a death and a rebirth, there really was. She could feel, she's sensitive. She knows me. She knew my feeling, my energy changed. She didn't know who her mom was anymore. And all these things that I was shedding that she had known to be me for her entire life. Like I'm selling all my clothes. I'm like not able to say certain stories anymore that were my narratives. Like she didn't know who I was anymore. It was like she was now living with a stranger who was going through a really big thing, and she didn't know if she was relevant anymore. Like, did I love her anymore? Because I wasn't really, I had neutralized so much. I wasn't reactive and I wasn't passionate in the way she was used to me being intense. And so she's like, she would say, it looks like you're dead. Like, you're not even you. What is this? And she'd just cry and she'd rage and she'd throw enormous fits trying to bait me into like reacting. And the truth is, there's nothing that could make my love diminish in any way for her. If anything, my heart has just expanded. But because she was a kid, she was like a kid. She was in her at this she was a sophomore. She just she didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to do. Um, and it was really scary for her. So I'm saying that just so that you know that every aspect of every relationship you have will be challenged to change. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is something that does create conflict. And everybody I know who's gone through a Kundalini awakening, it just does ruffle all the feathers of every paradigm that currently exists gets ruffled and potentially destroyed, burned away, or reborn. And so this one was just particularly painful. And I mean, this was the 3 year anniversary yesterday, and I would say only in the past 3 to 6 months has it started to calm down into being more harmonious. But still, she feels some very sad feelings around this awakening as a whole. So that's a bummer. Another thing that happened was I just started taking in tons of information. Just I couldn't get enough. The libraries you see in videos of me in this chair, all of the books behind me in that bookshelf used to be DVDs and VHSs, like my collection. I had maybe like one row of books and the rest was just media. So all of this is the stuff that I've collected and but have been told to collect during this time. So I have just like soaked up knowledge from every esoteric source I'm called to, particularly like the Kabbalion, Corpus Hermeticum, Emerald Tablets, the Kabbalah. Those ancient mystery school traditions are very much in alignment with my learning process through my guide Melchizedek. at that time. And so I just really enjoyed it. It was just so delicious to soak up all of these laws of the universe, to be able to see that there was patterns in everything around me. And so I wanted to I put this wording on here to let you know the next thing I'm bringing up is actually something that happened that's kind of graphic. So I wanted to share the picture because it's very powerful, but I didn't want anyone to be put off by it if they have a sensitive tummy. So at this point in my awakening, I was told that I really needed to address some old medical trauma that had happened to me in 2005. There was some medical trauma that happened, and it created some scars that caused some pain that was ongoing in my life. And my doctor at the time that I had gone to for this pain, and this is reproductive pain, she said that she could do a surgery to assist in the pain I was having. And it was a big trauma that had happened, and she'd like to remove like my fallopian tubes. And I felt like Spirit told me that was okay. And I really didn't want to have anything to do with the healthcare system, but Spirit said it was actually important it be removed. And I didn't quite understand it, but I agreed to it. And it was really interesting because when it was removed, I needed to do, for me, I needed to do a ceremony to close that cycle with those tubes. So I asked for the tubes to take home and after the surgery, and there was a nurse that was vehemently opposed to it, and she was like, no, it has to go to the pathology. And the doctor, just her response to it was so beautiful and so overwhelming and empowering. And this is the exact moment that this recording stopped recording. And so I will switch over to now what happened following that. Oh my God, Alex, I saw your face. You know what just happened. I'm what? I have to stop for a second. That is baffling. It kicked me off when I started talking about it. You think so? I believe you. I believe. What? I'm so tingly. You guys, do you feel that? I am. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Alex. You can just hold that for me. Wow. Because this is around feminine trauma that I'm about to talk about. So I was mutilated medically, and this doctor, she fought for me. Abortion was outlawed in Idaho that week, and she started yelling at the nurse, and she said, "You want to fuck with me this week? When every woman had her power taken away, you give this woman her fucking tubes to do whatever the hell she wants to do with it because it's her goddamn body." And she said that to the nurse in front of me. And the surgeon, God bless her, I love her so much. My friend from Kansas flew in to take care of me for this. One more, two, three. So you've been warned about this. That's what my tubes look like. Um, Tubes don't look like that, so you know. But that's what my tubes look like, both of them. And so I did a burning ceremony to release the trauma that had happened to my body that almost killed me in 2005. And my friend was there for it, who flew in, and we had a sacred period to weep for what had been lost and what was removed. Thank you for witnessing, you guys. Um, And I wanted to break that curse for my line. So I had these pictures with my daughter when she was little and when it happened, because it happened during when she was that big, the medical trauma happened. So what happened after that, when I went back to work, I awakened 12 people that next week because my circuit was clear, you guys. You can't make this up. I was counseling all of these people for months after like my Kundalini awakening. This was at this time in June. Um, and 12 of my patients awakened that week. 12 of them. They came back in the next week and they're like, I'm having visions and voices are talking to me and I'm having symptoms. My body is feeling like awakened. I'm horny all the time. I don't know what's happening. And so luckily a lot of them were able to receive and understand what was happening and I was able to work with them. I didn't know that that tuning happened that way yet. I didn't understand that yet. But the one of the people that was awakened, it had a bad outcome and I wanted to tell you that. She was very gifted as a witch. She had just started working with me, so I had not been with her for very long. I had met with her twice. She had deep, deep darkness in her from things that had happened to her and things that she had done after those things had happened to her. Deep, deep darkness. But she had gifts and she was a powerful witch. And it hurts my heart that she was doing this with Hecate because Hecate is a deep, wonderful guide of mine. But Hecate can create and destroy like all women can. About a week after she awakened, she was doing some dark magic she told me about because she witnessed her power and then she was like, so she decided to do some dark magic. And then the outcome of that was that she burned down her apartment building and is in jail now. So if you're not able to receive it from a place of love, it will amplify whatever vibration you're in, right? So it adds literally fire to whatever vibration you're in. So I think it's very, very important to be prepared to work with this energy and to not work with it unless you are prepared. And this is a couple weeks before it happened, and on the left, and this is on the right, last September. I felt resurrected. I felt like I was brought back from the dead, literally brought back from the dead. And it's the ultimate healer. It healed my trauma. It healed my sexual trauma. It healed my medical trauma. It healed my DNA. It gave me access to everything. And it is so beautiful. I felt just simply reborn. Yes, you see, Alex, you know. So the Q&A, I'm going to start with the questions I have to answer them. And then after, I will ask you what you have to share or ask, and I will answer as many as I can. I know we're at 90 minutes now, but this is not something to rush. So you can hop off if you need to. So the first question I got was, what does Kundalini mean in a basic witch life? And I love this question because for witches, of which I am, haha, to me, the biggest and most beautiful thing in terms of practicing as a witch, you're working with the elements and you're working with the earth and plants, and you are using it to harness together in that creation energy. I find that I started to practice my craft so succinctly and perfect once I opened this channel. I knew what correspondences were needed for me it was unquestionable. I would be just minding my own business in the kitchen and suddenly like have to put an altar together. And I would be all over my house in my garage gathering the perfect elements. It was flow. None of it was thinking. So it allowed me a perfect flow. I didn't question anything because Kundalini heals that egoic or thoughtful self, and you come into that balance. You just work into flow like you become part of nature. So I would just be driving and know you must go to the lake right now. And I'd go to the lake and I'd find a shell that spoke to me and gave me a memory from another life. It's like going into a flow that's so radical that you wouldn't have had access to it before without greater effort. Like you may have access to it, but it would take great effort. And this just became living. So my life is witchcraft. My life is connected. I am able to see the consciousness in absolutely everything that exists on the planet. I see faces in plants. They talk to me. They wake me up in the night. It makes the practice so much more fluid and beautiful because I know I'm here as a steward, and I'm here for those consciousnesses that are stuck in a spot. Like when I'm on a walk, a rock will be like, "Can you move me, please? I've been looking at the same view for the past 5 years." And and I'm like, "I like this rock a lot. I'd like to take it home, but it wants to be moved. Is here okay? Nope. Over. Okay, I'll put you here." So it's like being that steward to land in that radical, beautiful way. Um, and so I think there's nothing that doesn't align with it because it is everything, and it is innately a feminine energy. And so witchcraft itself is that empowerment of the feminine to be connected to that divinity. And so they are the same. That's what I would say is my answer. They are the same. What is one way to practice awakening my own Kundalini that is also easy to share with others? Um, I think by any of those things I mentioned that I could no longer do, to practice those. Like I would say you could just start by telling the truth all the time, no matter what it is. I would start by making sure everything in your life is a reflection of your authenticity and your personal power. To release that in your life that doesn't serve and not live in obligation ever for any reason at all. If you need to change big things in your life, you can do it. You can do it at the pace and pressure you need to, but you have to be in your full power. And anyone who's draining your power must exit. They must exit. They have no capacity to align with you if they are draining your power. And you have to be ready for what that looks like. If you invite this into your life, know that it can change everything, but that everything changing is what you are needing. And that's where the lack of attachment comes in. I'm not attached to really anything anymore. Like there are things I love in my house and my family and my life, my child. I love things. But there's no thing I'm attached to. There's no thing. I have me, and that is everything. They will leave anyway, effortless, always. Instantly. There were two of my close friends that I practiced witchcraft with. As soon as this happened, I told them, I said, I have to go offline for a little while. I need to go within. I need to just like be alone. I'll get back to you when I can. I just want you to know I'm not ignoring you and I love you, and we'll get back together when I feel better. So I for 30 days only. For 30 days, I didn't talk to them. And then when I felt a little bit on my feet, I texted them both and I was like, I'm alive. I love you guys. I miss you. I was wondering if we could do coffee. And both of them, I guess, had been talking about me because they both separately said, we're going to have to decide if we can forgive you first. And I was like, for what? I didn't do anything. And they're like, you closed yourself off from your spiritual track when you know that's part of us too. You should have shared it with us. And that was not okay. So I was like, I love you both. And I didn't do anything wrong and I will not apologize. And if you think I did something wrong, we have nothing to discuss anymore. And so I said, I will let you go with love and know that I always wish you the best and thank you for everything you've shared with me. And they were gone. And there was no conflict prior to that. It just happened. So you're absolutely right. They will leave anyway. But anytime you can, big sisterhood. Yeah, I know. Big sisterhood wound, girl, it's just so big. We'll get there, guys. We're all in this together. Um, so those habits I think are the easiest is just be in your full power, do nothing out of obligation, say your honest truth, dress how you want to dress. Like I wanted my hair this way for 20 years and I didn't do it because I knew someone in 99 who had this hair and I didn't want them to think I was copying them. That's fucked up. I'm not kidding. That's how I felt. When I got my hair done this way, I was like, and here you are. You're you. Here you are. It just felt like I became myself. I stopped putting off myself. And our world calls that like narcissism or selfishness in so many ways. It's not when it's coming from love and love for yourself, and you're not taking away anything from someone else. So, those are the ways you can do it in your everyday life before the actual Kundalini practice. You need to prepare the field for Kundalini. And that's how you're preparing the field for it. It's like setting up the operation room. You don't start doing surgery on a battlefield. You make a space that is conducive to being open and vulnerable where you could get infected because you can during this process. You will get attacked potentially. You need the support system. You need everything in place for when you decide to awaken this and stir this in you. So you are preparing the field. That's how you do it. There are shedding of habits and behaviors that must occur for the Kundalini to rise, such as diet and other habits. Yes, I did go into that, and I am happy to clarify that further. I think eating food that's food is big, and and one thing I thought was interesting is we're confused so much by what's in the world of like gluten-free, vegan, blah 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 blah, all this stuff. This is good for you. This is bad. High fat, low fat, keto, no fat. Like it's a fuckery. It's to confuse us. But when you actually go into yourself and don't let anyone else's influence you, like if your partner's vegan and you're very tired and you just really want a steak, only cookies, yes. Remember in Shasta, only cookies. Those cookies were it because they had fat and sugar and you needed that to channel what you were channeling. So if you need fat and sugar, don't judge it. If you're going to eat fat and sugar for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, eat fat and sugar for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but it has to be what your body is saying, you must do this. And don't do it because you're like trying to check out or comfort yourself. Ask your body what it wants. It will tell you, and don't judge it. My body told me to drink a glass of red wine every single day as a ceremony. And I was like, is that healthy? I have not felt buzzed or drunk since 2008. I drink a glass of red wine every night. It is a centering tool. It connects me to Isis somehow. I don't understand, but that's just for me. So don't judge it and don't let other people judge you either. Can a Kundalini awakening happening over an extended period of time and also possible for it to not fully awaken due to fear? Amen. Yes, 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 and yes. There are two people I know that have had failed Kundalini awakenings. One, dear friend of mine I've had for like ever and ever and ever. He had the Kundalini rise, and the Kundalini told him he would have to literally do everything I just said, change his entire life. And he was absolutely unwilling to do that because his lifestyle is a DJ. And you can't be a DJ in this world right now and be aligned with Kundalini. It won't work. It'll clash. And he didn't want to give that up because he doesn't see another way for him to create, I guess. And so he denied it and it went away and it's never come back. And he does regret that very, very much. It's been over 10 years for him. My other friend that happened to happened false with plant medicine. He was not ready for it and it shorted him out and put him into such a deep shadow that he wanted to die for 2 years and was suffering deeply. So I can't tell you enough how important it is for you to be aligned to receive the power you get. And you can't skip steps. And even though it feels like mine skipped steps, This was a divine appointment that I had that was needed at that time, that I was coded to receive at that time. That's just my story. Your story could be something else. You could be awakened by, like, my friend who just saw my codes and their Kundalini arose because they're Arcturian and an architect of reality, and they forgot for a minute. It's just I had to remind them. But it could happen. It's already in your story how it's going to happen. But at the very least, right now, you know what it is. You know how it operates. You know some concerns about what to be very mindful of, how to prepare the field potentially, and to how to respect it. Like, you respect it. Like every witch in the world knows, respect the elements. Kundalini is spirit. I have chills everywhere. It connects you to spirit. We've got earth, air, fire, water. It connects you to spirit. That is creation energy. We respect the elements. They can create, they can destroy. We honor them. We revere them. We do not play with them. So when people play with them or do bad things with them, like Kundalinis can be risen in a sexual abuse scenario, and that gets very twisted and bad. It gets distorted. I feel so badly for those, like, children that happens to. And we can see that in media, how that's looked. But when you are deciding your own spiritual path, these are the things to keep in mind. I really needed it to be a fair explanation for you that shows the good and the bad and the ugly, because it feels like informed consent, honestly. So I'm going to go back to the questions in a second to get from you guys, but I want to show you my offering that I have come up with, because I have been like, oh shit, this is serious. Do I activate people? Is that a good idea? But I was given a structure. I was told you can do a Kundalini activation, but what you need to do is you have to include preparation recommendations and instructions for beforehand, provide a guided journey that will re-anchor that person and clear their channel every day so they can rewatch it, a light language activation to center you, and a resource guide so that you can know what to do when you don't know what to do. These are the things I wish I had had. And actually, every day in my path, as I was in that 3-month period before my crown opened, I was cleaning my entire chakra system every day. And I'm going to create some videos that offer all of those things that you get with the one-on-one activation, which will be on a cellular level. And that will give you the support in the nest that you need to not get it jiggered. It's going to be good, basically. So that I'm going to actually, like, post in the next, I'm feeling that I may want to rest for the rest of today. So I'm not going to work on posting it because I've channeled all this information, but I'm going to put it up in the next week or so and send out the offering if someone wants to schedule. And I'm going to give, like, options so that it's not too overwhelming for someone to afford. This is important for people to have access to. So I'm making it accessible and I'm giving you all the resources. But it's important that there is an exchange because it's big energy. So thank you for hearing and witnessing and the timeline jump. And wow, the energy. So now I just want to open it up for you guys to share anything and everything that you need to. You can just go ahead and start sharing if you'd like. I'm going to take us off of this. Who would like to share or question? Or also, Genevieve, I have to say, your face makes me feel joy. Every time I see you smile, I feel like I'm being witnessed by a sister who's, like, happy to be here. And Alex is my cheerleader.
I love you so,
I love you so much.
so much. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I was laughing when you say, I don't know if I should do that. I'm like, you just did the 2 hours almost, something of, yes, yes, you are. Yes, you are at the good place and you're doing exactly what needed to be done. This is perfect. This is
Oh,
perfect.
good. Really? Okay, good. Good.
It's
I'm glad
perfect.
to hear
That's
that.
why I
Because
was
I never
laughing.
know. Just do what
Oh,
Spirit tells me. Like, is anyone ready? Does anyone want to hear?
yes. Yes. And about there's a lot of things that went very activating for me. I mean,
Good.
with the Doctor Strange, I cried the whole video through. It was so overwhelming because everything. And also yesterday I was I don't know how you say that in English, but hosting
Mhm.
uh, at the a ceremony in the witch world. So
Yeah.
about the full moon, the last full moon of the week of the year, it's the 13th moon of
Hmm.
the year, and we were on the Friday to
On Friday
13th,
the 13th.
and we were 13 witches. That was just
Oh my
perfect.
God. Oh, cool.
So, and I was the one celebrating, so I took the opportunity to heal because it was a healing ceremony ritual, and I asked the witches to heal that witch wound
Mm. Wound.
that well, that is so for so long, and you to talk about something very personal today that was taking away, but and that timeline shift, I felt this is also connected to the wound of the witches. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It was very, very strong and important.
Thank
So
you.
I wanted to say thank you for that. Thank
You got my heart and soul today, guys. Thank you,
You nail it, girl.
Alex. I love you so much. You're so loud, I can't even hear you.
Oh my God. What is that? Oh, okay. Those fireworks, the first video, is exactly what I felt when I
Yes.
had my natural Kundalini in April 2022 that I wasn't expecting. I didn't ask for it, and it just came boom like this.
Mhm.
I was having some beautiful channeling in this beautiful places that I always go here in Brazil. When I am in Brazil, I have to go to this place. And there was, of course, a lot of water. It was raining. Nobody was in the waterfall. They were out of the water because they were afraid of the raining. That was raining too much, and I was the only one in the rain. When I left the water, I went. My husband was waiting for me. I couldn't even drive because I was
Mhm.
channeling, and we went home. And when we arrived there, I asked my husband to anchor me.
Mm.
He doesn't know what anchor
Poor guy.
meant at the time. And poor guy, I just say, I don't know, just give me your hand. And he gave me his hands. And I was, because when I channel, I usually channel cosmic energy. I had never channeled earth energies. So I always, I don't feel cold, but the energy is extremely cold.
Mm.
So my husband said, Alex, you were freezing. And I said, I'm not freezing. I just need to anchor this because I cannot handle all of that right now in my physical body. And I asked him his hands, and he did it very well because he was just the antenna to
Mm.
bring up the Kundalini. And it
Yeah.
happened at the minute that he said, okay, I'm anchoring you. It just came up, and I felt the heating.
Mhm.
I felt it coming up. We had the cosmic bliss
Mm.
together, no movement, just with the waves of the energy coming without moving. I didn't have to move. And we were together in this experience. I had it twice.
Mm.
3 days after, I had the same thing in the water. So this bliss was also spread when we were in the
In the
waterfall.
what? Oh, that's so cool.
And
That's grid work,
exactly.
baby. That is grid
Yeah, I
work.
know. I know. I know. And I was very conscious about it because it happened. It happened, I mean, not many times after this. I would say like 2 or 3 times after where I felt this. But it can happen, as you said, without you knowing what it is.
Absolutely.
You don't have to ask for it. When it's time to be there for you, it will be there for you because your
Yes.
DNA is ready to release, to open this flag. And I mean, the first video, I just felt exactly is what I see
Yeah,
every time I'm channeling. I just
totally.
feel this and I just see all of that. So it's good because you are not crazy
No.
and I am not crazy. And it's so
No.
good to see that everything that you lived and witnessed and felt, uh, it's like, oh, good. It's validating. It's validating.
So
It's,
much.
I felt this is so good. So you nailed it. Thank you so much, my
Thank you.
love, for doing this because I am not crazy. And it's so good not to be alone in this world. Thank you.
It is,
I love
thank
you.
you for being here and understanding and having experienced it too, or just even anyone witnessing it is wonderful because you feel so alone when it's happening. And so it is, releasing that loneliness and isolation. Thank you for all of that. Does anyone else have a question?
I just want to say I
Um,
love you
I
guys
would
a
like,
lot. Sorry, sorry.
oh,
I'm sorry I
oh,
jumped in
Irene,
here.
go.
Irene, what do you have? What do you have? I can't see you or hear you. I see your name. Well, maybe Helena can go first until you can get it to work. Helena?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much, Audrey. It was so beautiful to witness your story, so activating, and thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. And your presence is just so beautiful and activating. Thank you so much.
Are so
And
welcome.
yeah, and I've been drawn to work with the Kundalini for a long time. I don't know if you remember, we had a session together, and
Yes.
yeah, yeah. And my process is very slow, so I kind of like had to giggle a little bit when at the beginning you said the ones who have a slow process, because I think like my soul is the one that is playing hide and seek and going at a
hmm
slow pace. And I feel drawn to your offering, and I just wanted to ask if this is something that you feel is also for those souls that feel like going at a slow pace.
Absolutely. Because you can set the intention that it will happen as you need it to be. And but to have the container of the information and the vibratory cleansing is the biggest one. The thing I'm supposed to create that will clear your field as often as you wish it to. That's the important piece to have to clear out when you feel gunked up so that the activation, you can use the activation after that because the session will be recorded. So you can re listen to the activation. I've done this with somebody accidentally. It was so beautifully aligned. I did this with someone 2, 3 weeks ago and it healed them like medically. It's cool. I can't explain it. But it's something you can listen to again and again, which this person has done to like pick up where that activation left off and to like go a little bit farther as they choose. So it's creating a nest of the clearing of the field, like making the surgical space clean. And then you have the activation you can listen to as often or as little as you want, but it's always there. And then you also have the resource guide to know what to do with your brain part to like learn more stuff. and watch stuff. So it's multifaceted. I also want to put together a playlist as well. So, because
Okay,
music is so
beautiful.
powerful.
Yeah, I actually ordered the book that you mentioned today. So
Oh, just now. Okay, good.
yeah, and I also would like to share a story about and kind of like a vision I had when I did a healing
Yes.
on myself. It was with Isis, Mary Magdalene, and Mother Mary. It was kind of like Isis lifted me up in the air and then put me on an altar. And then there were a lot of snakes on my body, and some kind of healing and activation happened. And then
Yes.
my vision switched, and I saw a huge anaconda in front of me.
Mm.
And like it was very dark, almost black, and it was just staring at me, like very still, very quiet, and just looking. And I feel like that was kind of like Kundalini looking at me,
Yes.
like
Yes, it
it
was.
is time to work with you. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to share. And that's what I feel like it's time to go even deeper into this energy and work even deeper with it. Yes.
Well, and I have to say, thank you for sharing that vision. I've also had Isis brought through all the snakes for me in my beginning too. And the anaconda, I know, is a big one. I know that Alex has experienced it as well from inside and outside. I wanted to add the reason it's important too, like, yes, it calls to us, but there's a lot of energies that are coming into our realm right now. For us to be able to hold it means that we need to widen our channel to be able to hold it. So it's also like a calibration issue for the light that's coming in. It will make us less uncomfortable. And so I feel like Kundalini is calling those of us who are needing that calibration to prepare to be more comfortable for as those energies are coming into our field too. So it's a multifaceted thing. And like Alex was saying, we're all coded for when we're supposed to receive it and how we're supposed to receive it. It's going to be beautiful because it's your story you created for yourself. So it's nothing we need to force. It's nothing we need to go searching for. I have chills. It it welcomes you. The fact that it's in your field to even be here today means you're closer to it than you were before, or you wouldn't be here, right? So it's beautiful. And I am excited to hear more about your hide and seek.
Thank you so much.
Irene, Irene, I see you. I
Sorry,
cannot
I'm
hear. There you are.
loading. It's
There you
because
are.
I had to leave the room. Sorry, I'm with a bunch of kids because I'm chaperoning for this weekend
Oh,
trip that they had. So I had to leave the room. But oh my God, everything so amazing, so aligned. I saw so many synchronicities during this entire um gathering. Um, what I was saying earlier is I love you all so much. I love you so, 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 so much. That's first and foremost my priority. Gosh, I got chills. So I've had two experiences. One felt like the beginning of arising because I could feel the energy flowing through every single part of my body, and it would start from the bottom or the top. I don't know where it started, but it would go up and then down, like just a
mhm.
slow motion. Even my face would like distort, and like my back would go back, and like it was like this whole
It's like this
fluid
exorcism
yeah, it was like
thing.
that. But I think that was just like a partial because this last time it's interesting how this happened because it wasn't my Kundalini experience. Someone called me saying, I really need to talk to you. I answered the phone, like I didn't know who called to have this experience, and you're the only one I know that could hold a frequency to like be here for me, to ground me. So I'm like,
Yeah, that's what you
okay. And
do.
the minute I got on the phone, it went from her to me. Like I just started feeling everything she was feeling.
Vibration.
And yeah, I mean, that's what we do, right? We feel energy. So it was like if you were doing Reiki on someone on the phone and you could, feel their energy. But this was like, I was feeling this entire Kundalini rising like experience. I mean, down to the ecstasy, down to the like my back, just going like everything. Like I would describe to her what I was doing. She's like, that's exactly what I'm feeling. How does that happen? How does one person transfer it to another like that?
It's cymatics. It's like how I awaken 12 people in a week. So when the vibration is going out, what we can't see, it tunes everything around it. So because time and space are what they are, you can tune anything. The highest, the strongest frequency always takes over the other frequencies that are not as strong. That's how, like, there's this thing that happened with clocks being wound in a clock shop in the 1400s, where the biggest pendulum set the pace for all the other clocks in the entire store. And Kundalini is the biggest pendulum in that clock store. So when it was vibrating, it tuned to your Kundalini to make it your Kundalini experience as well, because
Okay.
you got tuned.
Wow. Yeah, because it was amazing. I even told her, I'm like, I have never had an orgasm this good. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
Like,
orgasms wish they were like this.
exactly. At least that's how I felt. So,
That's how
anyways,
I
thank
feel
you.
too.
This was amazing, and I definitely want to continue connecting and hear about your offering because it sounds like something I'm totally, totally, totally ready for.
Oh, I know you are. For a fact.
Thank,
I know you
yeah.
are.
Oh, for sure. I'm just like, what's next? What's next? What's next? But I know it's baby steps, so I'm trying to be patient.
You've done so many baby steps, Irene. You are, I don't know if you know how big you are for how little you are. You are so big in a tiny little living space. You're
I
not
think I
big,
forget
but you are
sometimes.
big.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love
So
you.
love you all so, so much. And I'll still be here. I'm listening. Love you,
Okay,
Alex.
Alex, what you got? What you got? What you got?
Um, when Helena was talking at the end, it came to me something really interesting. Um, we are, we just have a timeline shift, right?
Apparently.
Okay. We have this parallel versions of Earth. And we are ascending and we are matching these parallel versions with Earth, which means that the Kundalini is also matching these new versions
Getting
of
bigger.
those parallels. Yes, bigger. So the thing is that what I felt when Elena finished was that we may have another type of experience, even
Yes.
though that we had a Kundalini awakening.
Yes. I've
I
been
mean,
shown this too.
yeah. Do you understand what I mean?
I know exactly what
Would
you're
it
saying.
be?
There are layers. So it's like
Yes,
every awakening has a new membrane to bust through another one, to bust through another one, to bust through another one.
yes.
And so even though some of us have had Kundalini experiences and we're never done, that's the key is to remember we're never done.
No.
So we, even if I stopped thinking I'm done a long time ago before I realized that I just keep going and I'm just witnessing it. I'm not going to judge it or be like, yay, I'm this far along. No, I don't. I got a ways to go. I'm just, I have seen this, Alex. It's this, I heard
Okay.
this once. I don't know, was it Natalia that said it or someone? But that what used to be the snake energy is now the dragon energy for the Kundalini. So it's so big. It's much bigger than uh, it used to be. It's bringing fire through with the, like it's, and I feel it. I feel it's widening. It's widening the vessel of the
Yeah.
circuit needs to hold more. I just got chills on both my legs. The circuit is needing to hold more. So it's
Mhm.
slowly like stretching it out. Um, and you're absolutely right. I see the same thing. Of course I see the same thing.
And probably when you were doing your activation for your offering, as there is no time and space, every time there will be re-listening to your activation, there
Yes.
will be a layer that
Yes.
will be fulfilled, will be experimented in
That's what I've
another
seen.
time dimension. Yes. So it's a
Yes.
multi-dimensional experience. It's not about, as if it's gonna be like, this dial adjusting the physical body for the enlightenment and the amount of light it can hold in the circuitry that
Mm-hmm.
that is held by the nervous system, because it also needs some kind of um, um, it needs to learn how to hold more light.
It does.
I feel that this is gonna be it's a multidimensional activation.
Thank you for that. I
Yeah.
really, really appreciate that. And
I
what I just
felt
got when
I
you
just
were
felt
speaking is it's like when you're working with plant medicine that has consciousness and you're greeting it. I have chills. When you greet it, you're like, okay, I need to be blasted off into space. Or if you're me, you'll go, be gentle. I'm scared. Not scared, but like, be gentle. I need to function, please. I just need to be able to go to the bathroom during this training. Let me go. So if you need it as like big or small as you need it to, like you're saying with the dial, it has a consciousness, obviously, because it's creation, and it's not here to destroy you. But like plant medicine, you must respect it and have that communion with it. So to be like, hey, Kundalini, give me what I need right now. What is the best to serve me that will make my body the most comfortable as I need it to be? Or maybe you don't need to be comfortable and you can be like, give me what I need. I will work through it, which is what lots of people do with medicine, like my friend Alex. Give it to me. And so people can get that experience and they can dial it up or down, re-listening to it or rewatching it. And that, thank you for that. I knew it, but I didn't have the language for it. So that is so special and wonderful that you were able to articulate it for me. Thank you, Alex.
so you. I love you.
I love you. Are there any other questions before we close out today? Because I have a dance party for us. No? Okay, I have a dance party. What's so special about this is because I actually have a playlist for my own like songs that came to me during my Kundalini journey. And this one played on repeat, possibly my most played song for the summer of 22, because, and I didn't understand at the time, but I realize now it was celebrating my freedom from the Matrix. And this song, this is the first time I danced unabashedly in my house by myself. Why would I be embarrassed of dancing in my house by myself? Because people fed me shame my whole life. This became my anthem. And so I'm going to share it with you. I would invite you to take a moment and go over to YouTube and listen to and watch Florence and the Machines free and just dance your little heart out. Thanks so much, you guys. I'm so grateful for you, all of you, to witness and be present. And I love you, Alex. I will send out an email with the offering when it is put together and the replay as well. And we'll see how that timeline works being recorded, if we can match those together. And go rest and reflect and enjoy yourself. Go ground, because that's what I'm going to do. I need to just go outside. I love you guys. Bye.